I'm Jay Fidell, ThinkTech. Here it is Wednesday. That means Energy Wednesday, Hawaii, the state of clean energy. I'm here with Hermina Morita. She's the former chair of the PUC and much more. And we're calling this show Reflections from the Former Chair. And to her left is Ray Starling. He's my co-host. And we are both just thrilled to have you here.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you for coming down. This is special. In fact, I would say it's more than special. It's historic.
Yeah, you've never had a former chair.
Never had a
on your
former chair.
program.
That's true. Okay, let me take a break for a minute and talk to Larry Newman, because in the way of things, we always talk about the negawatt moment before we talk about anything else. And Larry is here. He hasn't been here in a while, and he is impressed, as we all are, with the studio as it has evolved. Larry, you were going to talk about nozzles today.
Not just any nozzle, Jay. Well, first off, to remind everyone, we're with Hawaii Energy. We're the state's energy efficiency and conservation program. So we're serving the ratepayers of Honolulu, Maui, and the Big Island, all three counties. So we're here to talk about pre-rinse spray nozzles. We're focusing on the food service sector for those that have restaurants, catering business, etc. If you've got someone in the back that's washing dishes, they're typically sprayed and pre-rinsed with a nozzle. So what we're here to talk about is a free pre-rinse spray nozzle provided by the program that's going to cut your water consumption in half and cut your energy bill related to that hot water in half. These guys usually heat their water in two different ways, either electric resistant or heat pump. In the case of traditional electric resistant water heating, this spray nozzle can save a food service company almost $1,500 a year on their electric bill. The only thing they have to do is reach out and call Hawaii Energy. Our number is 839-8880.
What was that again?
839-8880. Or come to our website, hawaiienergy.com, and we'll have an arrangement made where we can provide you with those spray rinse nozzles for free. It's going to
say for free?
For free.
He said for free.
Typically, you can get them online. They're about $60, but we're providing them free because they are so cost effective to use. It's a very simple retrofit to be done.
And you'll do it. You'll install it for us.
Well, we'll show you how. It's pretty easy to get done, and the savings can start right away. And chances are, if you give us a call and we bring these to your shop, we're bound to find some other opportunities for you to save energy.
Great. What's the number again?
808-839-8880.
Okay, cross-examination.
Sounds
What's
good.
not to like?
It's very much like
I have a question.
the lighting installation bill that we talked about last week, where we go in also, and for small businesses we will install retrofit high efficiency lighting for no cost to them. And the reason that the program does that is because it is so effective. And it's so difficult to get a small business person to even pay attention to it. They're running too hard to get their work done, and so they're really not looking at the easy way to make profit by stop the use of excess energy.
So
Is there any special outreach to the schools and to the university for their food services?
Right now, we're working primarily through our specialists. So we've got a team of 8 specialists, and one in particular, Kyle Akagi, has been taking the lead role in getting this introduced. Later this year, probably in just a few weeks, we're going to be introducing Energy Star kitchen equipment as well. So we've got a whole other area of energy efficiency offerings for this particular sector that'll be coming out in the next couple weeks.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
what I like about this kind of program is this. People are going to be impressed. They're going to be affected by this transaction. It's not just that they call and they have the nozzle, and install it and all that. It's that it's leaving an impression on them about nozzles and about energy. So every time you do one of these giveaway programs, you're changing public opinion about the value of clean energy, the value of energy efficiency. There it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's really important is recognizing that energy efficiency can come in different forms. It's just not directly associated with the electricity that you use in your home or in your business, but, you know, the water savings, relating that to energy use.
We're in a different paradigm, that's right.
Yeah.
No, that's right. I mean, the Maui County has been giving out free spray rinse nozzles, but from the water side. So the message there has been saving water. But to your point, if someone's using a spray nozzle for hot water, they're thinking, okay, I'm using water. What's not obvious is they're using energy. And in the case of this measure, this low flow pre-spray rinse nozzle, it can save 3 times the amount of money on energy as what you're paying for water. So this will save about $400 a year in your water costs, but it's going to save about $1,500 in your energy costs associated with heating that water.
Well, and it's not only heating the water, but water pumping costs, which people don't see.
Right, right. All the way upstream. You're correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Larry. Come back soon and do another Negawatt moment with us. We have to keep current on all these programs. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Jay.
Aloha. Okay, alone at last. So, Mina, what is this? You left the PUC?
Well, yeah, it was time to leave and pursue other, I don't know what yet, but exploring.
Certainly a more relaxed lifestyle. I know you guys were very, very busy.
Yeah, and you know, I've been commuting for 18 years now.
Oh,
You know,
sure,
when
it's around
you-
the commute,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
I
a lot
don't
of work.
think I've spent a whole week at home.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so you know, that would be a nice change.
Yeah, well, you do look relaxed.
Thanks.
You know, you look younger, way younger than before. I don't know what happened. I guess you know, this is a good thing to do for your health and everything.
It's all the hair. What can I say?
Well, we wanted to get a handle, you know, on your life in the commission. And this is the best time to do it, you know, so you're sort of fresh from leaving it.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it freely because this is not on the docket. There's no,
Okay.
you know, you don't have to worry about quasi-judicial considerations. So I just, you know, I know Ray has a million questions. Let me turn it over to Ray for a while and see what he wants to ask you about, okay?
Well, you know, I've known you for a long time in the energy business. Years back, when Mina was the chair of the Energy Committee in the House, we had a lot of
You've come a long way.
discussions talking about a lot of the things they're talking about today. But she had a great experience there, and a lot of times there were bills that came through that were trying to do something to or for or with the Public Utilities Commission.
Right.
Then you left there and you went to be the chair of the commission, and I was wondering, you're a very unique person that has done both of those things, and I'm wondering if you have any ideas or thoughts that would be helpful to talk about the things that you didn't know when you were a legislator that you now know as former chair, and vice versa. As the chair, you knew a lot about the legislature, and actually you handled them very well because you knew how things worked in the legislature. But could you talk a little bit about that for us?
It's, you know, Hawaii has always had some really good basic energy policy. I mean, far back from I guess the 80s. And so it was just during the time at the legislature, building on these broad policies, and then directing DBED or the DBED Energy Office or the PUC to act on those policies to implement. I think it was back in 2003 when we sort of recognized that the PUC didn't have the resources to really move forward.
Staff.
Yeah. Well, yes, staffing, modernizing, equipment, computers. I mean, one of the things that was shocking to me was when I became PUC chair and the monitor was this huge, clunky.
One of these, eh?
Yeah. Huge, clunky monitors that took up half my desk, and the screen was like 10 inches by 10 inches. And, you know, they were in the process of and mind you, this was 2011, in the process of updating their equipment.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
back in around that period was recognizing that, you know, was trying to build a staff capacity, upgrade their equipment, and their docket management system at that time, and recognizing they didn't have the resources, and then directing the auditor to do an audit of the PUC and the consumer advocate. And so the audit was done in 2004. I think it was around 2006, I can't quite remember the date, where the legislature directed the commission to come up with a reorganization plan.
Mm-hmm.
The commission responded in 2007 with a reorg plan, which the legislature funded. I think it was around 2009, we eliminated some of the positions that we funded back in 2007.
It always happens that way.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's been a decade in trying to reorganize, more than a decade in trying to reorganize and again, build up the capacity at the PUC.
Mhm.
But I think that the long story short, there is a big difference between guidance and policy at the legislature and the implementation that happens at the PUC. And at least, you know, what I was trying to do there was to build the capacity at the PUC so there would be confidence and deference to the PUC as we move forward, because especially the energy issues are becoming so complex.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that was my question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. You know, did you ever feel that maybe they should leave you alone?
That's part of my frustration at the legislature and looking at all of these bills right now.
Yeah.
Because they give the impression that the PUC doesn't have authority to deal with the merger, to deal with community solar tariff, to deal with integrated energy districts or microgrids. And the PUC has full authority to do all of that. And I believe trying to move forward in a very concerted effort, because you're talking about a whole system transformation. And, you know, you poke here, something else is going to move. And so, you know, you have to take this whole system approach.
Yeah, and that means they should let you do your job. I mean, when you were in the
What-
PUC,
what I
they
think-
should let you do your job.
Well, I think what they should be concerned about is assisting the commission and the consumer advocate to have all the resources at their disposal to do their job.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have, the legislators have every right to check on progress, that
Sure.
this due diligence is, do their due diligence in making sure that this is happening. But again, it's just understanding the role and where they may become too prescriptive, where it might have unintended consequences.
Yeah, and as you say, things are more complex now.
Oh, yeah,
And you have to leave it to a group that works on this all the time,
right,
that has achieved a certain level of expertise on it,
yeah.
and you can't double think them all the time. It's
Right.
their regulatory duty and obligation and power.
Right, and especially, you know, we're at a time where, especially technology-wise, we shouldn't be picking the winners, you know, because it's still evolving, and what, what the commission should really be concerned about is that, that neutral platform and establishing a fair market approach in moving forward with different technologies.
This is the part where we get to ask you, about the evolution while you were there. It's the most interesting part of all. We're going to take a break first. We're going to get ready, and then we're going to dive right in. It's Hermina Morita, the chair, former chair of the PUC, and the name of our show is Reflections from the Former Chair here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Andrew Howard. I'm an astronomer at the Institute for Astronomy at the University of Hawaii up in Manoa. I'd like to tell you about the annual open house that we're having. This year it is on April 6th, 11 to 4 p.m. It's an all ages event, kids, grown-ups, even people in between, everyone is welcome. We have a lot of really fun activities. You get to meet astronomers, look at yourself in an infrared camera, play with Legos, make robots, look at videos. You could even make some of the kids like to make comets out of gravel and snow. Even adults like to do that too. You'll be able to look at the sun with a solar camera safely. It's really a great activity. We do this every year in April, and I hope to see you this year. Thanks.
Okay, we're back, we're live. We're here with Hermina Morita, the former chair of the PUC, with reflections from the former chair, Ray Starling, and me on Hawaii, the state of clean energy. So, it's a great conversation to be able to talk to you, and I think the question that comes to mind is as probably the most interesting question from the historical, you're a historical figure. Really, you were there, in the execution of the plan that was designed in 2008. You saw it all happen.
Well, I was there in 2002
Of course, you were in the ledge
with
before.
RPS and net metering.
That's true.
The initial law.
That's true. So that makes it even more of a continuum. So here you're in the PUC. You walk in, you sit down, you look at that big screen. It's kind of clunky. And from there to here, just about here, things change all around you. It's a wild ride. So can you talk to us about the kind of ride you had in those years? This would have been from, day one of the Abercrombie administration?
Well, I think I should go back farther
Please.
to what was happening at the legislature.
Yeah, please.
With the formation of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, because when I first became chair of the Energy and Environmental Protection Committee, there really wasn't a defined stakeholder group on energy issues. And and there wasn't a consensus of, what our energy future should look like. You had the utilities, and you had DBED, and you had, an assortment of individuals, but no sort of concerted effort to really define and support a vision at the legislature. You had DBED under Maurice Kaya working on the state energy plans, and with reaching out to various stakeholder groups. But when it was time to move forward at the legislature, there really wasn't a defined group. So I think the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum played a really important role at that time to build consensus on where we were going. And so, through that effort, there was momentum.
These are the years before the Clean Energy Initiative.
Right.
About 5 years or so.
Right. You had Jeff Nicolina with the Sierra Club, You know, you had Maurice with DBED. You know, you had some input from Hawaii Natural Energy Institute. You know, moving forward. And you know, in those early years, it was just trying to adopt net metering as a pilot program. It's way beyond a pilot program stage now.
Yes.
And renewable portfolio standards. And, you know, I remember the first time I spoke about renewable portfolio standards. You know, it was an eye-opener for me. It was just a mechanism to establish a market floor moving forward. I mean, and I think the other thing that was really important is this total movement from lease cost to life cycle costing. You know, getting that concept across.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's an important thing to know right now, because at the informational briefing on the HECO acquisition at the legislature, Eric Gleason had mentioned, you know, one of the primary differences between Hawaii and Florida is lease cost. You know, in Florida, you know, their regulation is that it is least costly, and here, you know, we knew at one time that renewables couldn't be competitive on that basis, and that's why we went to life cycle costing.
So we're ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we're more advanced.
Well, you were there when it was getting carved out, when the mission was, you know, emerging, and we had to sort of come together and figure out what the transformation was going to be like, how to do this.
Yeah.
It was all new ground, new territory in every way,
Yeah.
and you know, legally and legislatively, that's hard to do. You know, turn this huge aircraft carrier a few degrees to the left. That's not so easy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you were there as the chair of the Energy Committee in these critical years.
Yeah.
That must have been interesting.
Oh, it was really interesting because, again, you know, policy-wise, we were forging new territory, and then it was equally excited when I went to the PUC.
Well, that must have been an interesting decision for you because, you know, at that point, you were clearly the energy lady, a leader in the House and thus the legislature on energy. You had all these things under your belt. You had already changed a lot in clean energy, and now this opportunity came up, and it didn't necessarily allow you to go backward again.
Yeah.
You were committing,
Yeah.
taking the risks of being the chair for however long politically you could be the chair. You know? So that must have been what were your thoughts at that time to accept that?
Well,
you wanted it, but why?
Well, you know, I never identified myself as a risk taker, and I did one of these personality tests. I mean, I always thought I was very a cautious person. I did this personality test and found out that I was a huge risk taker. But I think, you know, it's like jumping into unknown territory. I think if I knew then what I knew now, I know now, I might not have done it.
Wow.
So going in with
ThinkTech.
so being completely ignorant going in is maybe a good thing, you know.
Well,
Could you tell us a little bit about what did shock you when you got there that you weren't expecting, that you know you found and had to deal with as the chair?
Okay. Well, well, my first experience in trying to implement the energy efficiency portfolio standard, I remember sitting in a meeting and reading the law and going, "Oh my God, this isn't clear. You know, what does this mean? Who wrote this? You know?"
That's good.
And then, you know, the other one, when we're doing the 5-year review of the RPS, you know, and you know, at the time sitting on the other side, you know, you think you laid out everything to be done, and again, it's like, oh my God, this is so poorly written.
That's good. That's great. That's really interesting. When you see it from two sides,
Oh, yeah.
it's not the same.
It's the difference between, you know, the people who are just writing policy, and then you have to implement what
Yeah.
the law says. You
Yeah.
gotta actually understand what it was they were talking
Yeah,
about.
and that's why I'm so sensitive about the issue when I see these bills coming through
Oh, yeah.
the legislature
Yeah.
right now. It's like, you just don't understand,
Yeah.
you know, what a problem this
Less
will
is
create.
better, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me take you back for a small journey. I'm trying to get a snapshot of the beginning of your term, PUC. Let me try to remember the things that would have come up in front of you. First, there was big wind. This was a big possibility, and connected with that, by virtue of the clean energy agreement, was the undersea cable. And as we referred to earlier, solar was not that big a deal. It wasn't that many years ago, but solar was
Yeah.
simply not that big a deal. I don't remember whether this is before the development of Hawaii Energy, maybe it was.
Well, she was involved in the development
Okay.
of the concept of the public benefits fee administrator.
But
Yeah.
so this
passed the laws on
but
that,
this was on the
allowing-
legislative side, and
Yeah.
then she got to do the implementation and oversight.
I came in just when the, basically the former Chair Caliboso and especially Commissioner John Cole finishing up on the contracts. The contracts had already been let out and moving on to the implementation of the program.
And I will tell you that I think the program itself, with all the pieces that were put in there, the oversight pieces, that's a great model. If we could do a lot of things in government the way that was done, having, you know, people actually watching what's going on and accountability. Yeah, that's a big thing, and it certainly has motivated us to be sure that we're careful. We realize every day that we're spending somebody else's money to try to help the state, and the fact that, you know, we had people that we could call and talk to and had that feedback loop was, and still is, a great way to do it.
I have to say that was a great success over you know, the period we're talking about. Anyway, back to the early days, and then I recall that that Neil Abercrombie wanted to make an authority, and that was going to be different. Nobody knew exactly how, but
Well, I
it'd
think
be
that was the
another
first
layer.
thing that got me into trouble. I didn't quite, you know, it's like, you know, we're just rearranging the deck chairs here and, you know, without the proper staffing and resources.
Right.
And, yeah, you know, they wanted to add more commissioners, split up the commissioners into transportation, energy, and it was like,
Oh, I remember now. Yeah.
we just need more staff. We don't need, yeah.
Don't
We need-
complexify this.
Yeah, we need workhorses here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I would say, I'm just trying to remember the moment, you know, that to the extent there were people who were speaking out as activists, I think their primary message was, we want green. We want clean energy. Don't stop, keep on going. And the whole idea about cheap energy had not actually come into play yet.
I
The
wouldn't say
voices were
cheap,
not-
I would say affordable or cost
Okay,
effective.
whatever, less
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
And there was no public protest over that yet. So when you first came in, it was about wind, it was about the cable, it was not necessarily so much about solar, and it was the pure form of the initiative. Was we want clean energy. So I don't know, what were the things that punctuated that period for you? How did things evolve with those, you know, those priorities all around you in the first year or two of your term?
Well, I think, you know, especially first coming on board with, you know, the challenge, and the challenges for this new chair is to look at the existing dockets and really set the strategic handling of all of these issues currently before you. And so when I first stepped in, you had the feed-in tariff docket.
Oh, yeah.
You had, but there was a variety of individual issues. But, and in a way, they were interrelated. And so how do you take all of these individual dockets, specifically addressing specific issues, and combine them into a more holistic view of that would effectuate transformation?
What I hear you saying, though, is that maybe this 100-year-old system isn't the best, and that if you had a chance to write the rules again, reorganize the way the PUC does business, you might make some changes?
Well, no, I mean, the challenge is, how do you, the bus is moving forward to our goals, but how do you change the tires when the bus is moving?
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you how. You take a break.
Okay.
I mean that on a number of levels. Okay, that's Hermina Morita. She's the former chair of the PUC. We're having her reflections today, which I'm so enjoying. I'm sure you are too, Ray. It's Ray Starling, co-host. And we're talking about reflections of the former chair of the PUC here on Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We'll be right back after this very short break.
Ted Ralston, folks, host of our show at ThinkTech Hawaii called Where the Road Leads, where we talk about technology influencing the future of Hawaii. Technology, of course, is the art of solving problems. We always bring in interesting and informed guests who can see from different perspectives and different points of view how that future might unfold and how technology can assist us in getting there. So once again, join us 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Fridays. Ted Ralston, your host. And please, if you have ideas that you'd like us to address on this show, or folks who you think should be on it, let us know.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon. And on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidell. To my left, Hermina Morita, the former chair of the PUC. I'm stuck in treating you as the chair. Sorry.
It's Mina. Just call me Mina. That would be easier.
And we're talking about reflections of the former chair in Hawaii here, the state of clean energy. So to pursue that discussion from a minute ago, so you have these different dockets moving down the trail, and they cross over. They all have an effect on each other because you need a comprehensive, and you need to make them work together.
Maybe I can help with what's going on with an example. I mean, with the philosophical change at the PUC, I think that was becoming more obvious that we weren't going to react to applications, that we were going to drive policy and drive the direction that we were going. So that the PUC, Scott Hempling, who's a nationally recognized regulatory attorney, writes this book, To Lead or Preside. So this commission chose to lead and not react to applications. So again, it was, how do you organize the staff or reorganize, the staffing responsibilities, staffing duties, to have that kind of mindset. Mm-hmm.
So were you able to do that? I mean, what happened when you realized, that you wanted to lead, But that leading meant you had to cross the lines between the dockets. How do you fix that? What did you do?
Okay. Well, first of all, it wouldn't have been possible without, having really good people come on board, and where, for example, Commissioner Mike Champley and his experience, his background in utilities. I mean, that, talk about.
Experience counts then.
Oh,
It's really
lots of
important in
experience.
an organization which is expected to make expert decisions.
Exactly. So, having that kind of caliber come to the commission was just incredible. Having somebody starting off with a chief of policy and research, first with Josh Strickler, again with his engineering plus legal background, and then later replacing Josh after he left with someone like Dr. Griffin, and his intimate knowledge of the ecosystems, and plus his background in economics, as well as environmental policy.
All of those things relevant.
So yeah, and then so establishing that kind of caliber within the commission, you had somebody like Kat Awakuni, who was chief counsel, coming on board, and she was the former consumer advocate, plus with a utility background, and then after Kat left, having Tom Gorick come in and his 30 plus years in regulatory law.
All these comings and goings, though, was that?
Yeah,
is that a good thing?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough, but again, when you have highly qualified people in such a small pool of applicants, when there are better opportunities out there.
Including with utility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, those bills that are coming before the legislature on post-employment restrictions, I mean, they're really bothering me because, again, the legislature and the PUC have the ability to set the stage on what the expectations are of the utility. And so if everybody is aligned in what's necessary to serve the public good, does it matter when people move from one place to another, because they understand the mission, they understand the purpose, and they understand the roles of the regulator and the utility, and it should be in sync in serving the public good.
Right, they should be doing the public good wherever they are.
Yeah, yeah.
You had something, Ray, before.
Well, I too have, especially since I'm an attorney, I worried when I saw a lot of attorneys that would come, and of just about the time they get the hang of things and understand how it worked, they would leave. And it just seemed like that was, if there was some way to help keep them there, I don't know if it's a salary adjustment that could be done either legislatively or otherwise, but a lot of times it's money, and some people, just find that they would like to do public service, but they can't afford it. They really can't.
So money would be the presumptive answer. If you pay the lawyer enough, he's going to hang around.
Yeah, and when we first came in, we worked on salary schedules based on performance and longevity. And it was a bureaucratic nightmare trying to get that through. We'll see what happens when the PUC is fully transferred to Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. But the PUC was attached to Budget and Finance. The Budget and Finance director's comment to me at one time was, "It's just too bad you got stuck with the bean counters. Our mission is not aligned," and which is true, and which is why he was supportive of the move to Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs.
What I get about this is an aardvark situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like the rest of the government in the PUC because you're regulating some of the biggest capital concentrations in the state. We know now that Hawaiian Electric is worth $4.3 billion. And so that's the biggest company in the state. And that means that there's
That affects, I mean, other than
Right.
Kauai, affects every single person
Everybody.
throughout the state,
Sure.
throughout their service territory.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money at stake. And you limited to what 100 or 120,000 for the chair. I forget what it is by statute. It's not.
No, it's less than that.
Less than that, sorry.
Yeah.
I wanna make it sound-
It's 87% of what the director of human resources makes.
Really? Is that the law?
Yeah, and that's.
What is that?
Were
And-
you in the
and-
legislature when that law was passed?
That's not yours.
And that's, and that cabinet position is the lowest paid cabinet member.
Oh, my,
See,
oh.
So, what's the correlation here? Yeah.
well, to me, the problem is that if the chair's making that, can you afford to give, one and a half times or twice that much to a lawyer on the staff? It doesn't work well.
Yeah.
And yet you would have to do that if you want to hold on to him and compete on salary basis with the other structures in the community who have a lot of money to spend for this, who want him. And so you're a training ground. As
Yeah.
you become a training ground, you'll lose them all.
Yeah. And I think, I again, these really aren't the typical civil service positions, so it's really hard to peg, these people into those kinds of positions. But yeah, it would help to have competitive salaries to not only attract, but to retain.
We only
staff.
have a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to ask this question. Before I tried to paint a picture of the way things were when you started, and now it's different. And in the middle, things happened. I mean, same things I mentioned have changed dramatically. Big wind, gone. Well, some people think it could come back, but for all practical purposes. And the cable, maybe, but it's a long maybe. And solar.
Those are open dockets right now.
Thank you. And solar is the big issue. And we're in another time completely. The whole thing has evolved into stuff you would, circumstances you would never have been able to guess at the beginning of this. So looking back down the trail, Nina, and we can do this show again. I'd like to talk to you more about it, but looking back the trail, what was it like to watch all these things change around you? It was never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So characterize for us.
So, my angst, my biggest angst is that, people are still reacting to all the sound bites. 100% renewable, solar on every rooftop. So it might benefit a small portion of electricity users, but what we need is a system that benefits everyone. What we need is a strong backbone. I mean, your
A leadership
experience.
thing.
No, strong electricity backbone. Grid.
Okay, grid background, okay.
Yeah.
So that
And-
everybody,
We also
that-
have to
yeah.
let the PUC do its job.
Right.
That too, but anyway,
Right.
go ahead.
Right. So, as I was telling you earlier off the air, there are lots of advocates out there, so you hear from the advocates, but there's no counterbalance to, what is practical, what is real, what is cost effective moving forward. And so how do we develop that? How do we educate the public? And I think Hawaii Energy is doing some focus groups right now. And I think those surveys, focus groups are revealing that there's a lot of education that needs to be done. And so I think our challenge here now is how do we educate the general public as to, you know, what is real, what is practical, how we're moving forward, what the ultimate vision is moving forward. And, you know, because, you know, they kind of say where people lead, politicians follow. And if the people don't know, you know,
Then the
How-
politicians
It's a
are
good
going in the
point.
wrong direction.
well, yeah, how do we create that political will to stay on track?
Yeah.
Well, it strikes me, you know, in the conclusion of the show, to think that, you know, you know, have been in energy for a long time, in leadership positions, and in the PUC, and probably the most important years the PUC has ever had. And you'd be a great person to participate in a public education campaign.
Well, I think I started a blog.
Good.
I'm just trying to figure out how to, you know, distribute it. But you know, one of the things that I want to do is, you know, how do I get some basic information out there? You know, simple things like defining demand response, defining time of use rates.
Yeah.
You know, how do people benefit from demand response or time of use
That can
rates?
be your next level that you move to.
Yeah.
You become a teacher, a blogger.
Well, yeah, and something that I can do at home. But,
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
Less
you know, but-
commuting.
But, you know, just, you know, I welcome suggestions on how to approach this. You know, on Facebook, I kind of put up I need help. You know, I don't know how to maneuver through Google Plus and Blogspot, and got several response from that, and learned about several classes at Kauai Community College,
That's great.
and so, yeah, it's a
good.
new.
Okay, there is
new
another
career.
way too.
Okay.
You can come back.
I was going to say exactly that.
We want you back on our show. We want you to educate us and the public.
Thanks.
That's Hermina Morita, the chair, former chair of the PUC. You want to close, Ray? I can feel it.
Well, actually, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing this, and we would love to have you come back, because you're either going to have to write mini blogs or a book, or come back here and share with us your thoughts, especially as things develop. You're now independently able to talk about, you know, what you think, and I think people will listen. So
Well,
give it a go.
Well, I hope it's not that people will listen, but how can we stimulate the discussion and become more educated so we can make informed decisions?
Yes.
You know, I don't have all the answers, but I probably know more than most people on where to find answers. So.
Okay, well, we're going to have to close, but I'm going to say that Hermina Morita, former chair and chair emeritus
There you go.
of the Public Utilities Commission, he been talking about you know, reflections of the former chair, and here on Hawaii, the state of clean energy. And Ray and I are delighted to talk to you anytime. We'll be calling you. You can run, but you can't hide.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Mina.
Appreciate it.
Aloha.
Thank you.